From that day onwards, Bakugo was determined to make this boy whipped for him. He knew his confidence and hard work paid off well when he was met with a genuine smile on his face, making a mental note to tell his friends that he succeeded in proving them wrong. The first couple of days were fine. Bakugo hadn't realized how much energy it actually took to plan a good date. He couldn't comprehend why he was actually taking so much effort for insincere confessions and feelings. It was weird. The satisfaction of the ego boost wasn't even much. But you're a man of your words. No doing shit half-assed. He liked to remind himself that he never really cared about impressing Deku. He was just infatuated with the thought of making him fall in love with him. Bakugo honestly had good taste when he picked out their first date to the beach because he thought it would just greet them quietness there. They would also spend the whole day talking, with not really a lot of distractions from people. Keeping up a conversation would be challenging, but he summoned up that Deku would keep the talk going. He just had to answer it. Fuck. Was he really doing this? When he finally got to see his face, first thing in the morning to pick him up, Bakugo gripped his wrists a little rough to make this quick. He just had to go on a date with him, right? Spend some time, spew some half-assed conversation. What he didn't seem to fully understand was that relationships were way more than that. This is Bakugo though, what could you expect? The soft strum of waters accompanied them as they sat down on top of a mat Bakugo had placed above the sand. The blonde knew he probably gave off the impression of trying too hard, but it made him just a little bit pleased when he saw Deku's smile after such a small gesture. Why the beach? It's quiet. And not a lot of people. Bakugo had his eyes straight on the sun that was going down, the hazy orange hues leaving his skin tan. His arms were set down to the mat, the black tank top he was wearing making his muscular arms visible. With the tiring week getting to him, he laid down with eyes half opened. The wind gushed through his hair just a little bit, making him grunt in annoyance, but furthermore, his peripheral vision allowing him to see how the green-haired boy's cheeks had flared up with cherry red. His shoulders were tense, reluctant to be able to just casually look at him. Deku hadn't adjusted to his new boundaries with Katsuki yet. Sensing that he would feel uncomfortable if he chose to lie down next to him like they were close friends, Bakugo had never tried to approach him ever, not in this way. He just thought if he ever wanted to fix things, he would do it in a slow, burnt process. Be in denial about something, passive-aggressive the way he is, subtle smiles here and there. Words of reassurance. He wasn't able to normalize this just yet. Are you uncomfortable? Well, not really, he says with a slightly nervous chuckle. Bakugo could read that. He sits back up, tugging on his arm before making Deku lay down on his back with him. The reason why he chose to do this was that it was easier for him. He wasn't good with words, mostly when it was intimate. So the least he could do to avoid cursing at him was to not have eye contact, more time to think. Ka-chan, why now out of all times? A spark of curiosity aroused inside him. Bakugo took note of that. Why are you so curious? Does it hurt to try and spark up a conversation? We won't go anywhere if it keeps going on like this. That spark was soon faltered as soon as Bakugo replied, which hurt his ego a lot. He didn't want to make him feel as if he can't hold up a conversation. Remember the plan? Head over heels for you, Bakugo. I figured we just misunderstand each other a lot. And I know that's bullshit coming from me, but I can't help but feel like you're taking shit the wrong way if I keep being a jerk. If we're both going to be heroes, I guess that it'll be obliged for me to at least have good morals. Starting from you. At one point, Bakugo was mad because that was such a good excuse that it wasn't really an excuse. He'd always wanted to say that, just never knew when or how he should say it. Deku's jaw that had kept shut before, now turned to him with excitement illustrated all over his face. I'm glad you're doing this for the better, Ka-chan. That's a huge thing coming from you. I'm honored that you told me you feel that way. Bakugo was at a loss for words, instinctively chewing on his gum, waiting for Deku to say another word. Sometimes I feel like you can read my mind. What makes you think in such a way? Bakugo blinks confoundedly at him, the view of his side profile greeting him as Izuku looks to the side. He wasn't oblivious to his jovial expression. Every time I think of a plan, if we're in trouble, you somehow just know how to follow it. No, maybe, that's just you. What do you mean? You might think that, but on my side, it looks like you're the one who understands me. Bakugo wanted to ask something, but he was unwilling to do it because it made him sad in a way. Fuck it, now or never. Did you formulate that stupid plan when you found me after getting kidnapped? I was so glad you were safe. It ruined me when I saw your hand reaching out of the portal. I was screaming your name so loud. I was really sad. I had to see you leave like that. But then when I saw you, I figured inside my head about how you would think, How you would agree if we ever implied help. I know you're not the person to be able to accept help easily from others. So that plan was perfect. Your perfect escape route. Bakugo didn't notice how long it had been when his eyes can't seem to rip off from the sight of Deku talking. He tried to snap out of his train of thoughts. They were in deep, but he took his childhood's friend's word into mind, feeling a pang of guilt rushing through him. It disheartened him in a way because he studied how his cheerful smile had turned to a slight frown talking about the situation. Bakugo wasn't able to perceive what he meant. Was he happy or sad about it? He was interested, leaving him on to rant and continue. Am I rambling again? No. Go on. It slipped off quickly because he was intrigued, not knowing why. Okay. I concluded that you were only at least able to tolerate Kirishima, which made me really happy because he treated you so good as a friend. So when he reached out a hand for you, and you accepted it and grabbed onto it, I was so relieved. Because it felt like you trusted us. Deku turned to face Bakugo, who seemed to be staring at him, profoundly confused. Almost unreadable expression. He grew flustered because they looked at each other so closely, only a few inches separating both of their foreheads from touching. He wasn't able to figure out why this didn't bother Bakugo at all. It did bother Bakugo. It did bother him to the point it raked out his growing aggravation because he was so kind and genuine. Without any ill intentions. Bakugo swore he could feel his stomach twist up into knots because Deku treated him so right despite everything they've been through. Kachan? Did you really feel happy? When you realized you had to make Kirishima reach out to me? Because you had the thought in mind that I wouldn't take yours. It surprised Izuku when he asked such a question. Witnessing how his eyes rolled away from his own, his tone growing softer. And not really. At one point, I was just a little sad when given the idea, but you know. My feelings aren't really significant if it means I fail to save you. So, it's better to just set it aside and make sure you're safe. You were really brave. I'm not sure how I would react if I were stuck in a situation like that. Bakugo was really speechless this time. It was the unmoving beam on his lips that irritates him the most. How was he able to let it all be without at least getting angry that Bakugo chose to tolerate Kirishima over him after his undying support for him? He wasn't sure. But it didn't fail to grow the agitating guilt inside of him. Be honest with me, have you ever wished it was you and not him? His mouth gaped a little at such a weird question. But Deku knew that the blonde wouldn't ask things if it never bothered him. Maybe, yeah, once in a while. But like I said, at least you earned yourself friends that you can trust and be comfortable with. That's what matters the most to me. It, in fact, isn't me, but hey, what can I do about it? There's no point in dwelling over things that you can't change. Right? His smile, it was gentle but looked a little bit sad. Almost like it was trying to keep an upfront from talking too much about his feelings. He bit his lip a little before turning his head and sitting back up. Screaming to Katsuki about how beautiful the sun was as it reaches dawn. He swore he could feel his heart palpitating, convincing himself he was just shocked because of the sudden action by Izuku, shutting out the weird feelings inside of him. You really did pick a great choice bringing us to the beach. It's been such a long time since we've got to relax. I miss home so much. Now that you think about it, he tilts his head to the side as the shimmers of orange cast contoured his attractive features. Bakugo was now sitting next to him, unable to take his gaze off him. For a moment, he wanted to snap out of his thoughts again, but he decided to let them be. Letting himself indulge at the moment because he wasn't looking. Bakugo noticed how his fluffy green strands had been pushed back a bit. Baby hairs sticking out all over the place. His loose shirt tipped itself to the left side of his shoulders. How his toes were wrinkled up a bit, practically giving away how nervous he actually was. Deku had always been shy around people. But at least he had the decency to stand up for himself when he needs to and not let himself get devoured away with self-deprecation. However, people had been giving him backhanded compliments about how he'll never make it to being a hero. He never let it get to him. Katsuki latched on to the passion, similar to what he has. How that passion never seemed to fluctuate, no matter how much times people had brought him down. He was dead set on becoming a hero, and no one was going to stop him. If Katsuki picked up the thoughts inside his mind correctly, he'd probably admit that he was proud. Really proud. Katsuki held onto his hands that were balled into a fist, letting their fingers intertwine as he rolls small circles around his thumb, unintentionally telling him to calm down. Kachan? You really have to stop calling me that. Katsuki's scowl never left his face. It was natural to him at this point. But there was a slight difference in it this time. It was him trying to hold back the curves of his lip from forming into an unfeigned smile. Bakugo Katsuki hated that he had never taken the time to sort things properly for them. Bakugo hated that he always let his stubbornness and pride win him over. He hated that he couldn't see how much Izuku really supported him from the start. Maybe he should have taken his hand. Back then, when he fell. He laughed miserably, recalling the memory. Realizing how he shouldn't have raged. That was so petty of him. He was just trying to help, letting him know that he doesn't need to go through everything on his own, that he could have leaned his shoulder to somebody and be able to trust them. I should never have to win your love and hate myself when I don't. Maybe those were the words he wanted to say to Bakugo. It was left inside the hole pummeling inside his heart. Though seeming to be left unscathed, consuming his growing misery even more. Bakugo chose Deku? Out of all people? Yes, what about it? It seems cruel, don't you think? I could care less about that damn nerd's feelings. Kirishima couldn't deny the disappointment put up straight on his face, unable to defend him this time. Are you sure it's going to be okay? What if he falls for you? How are you gonna end it? I'll just end it. It's that fucking easy. Why are you so nosy? I proved my point if he does like me so that you all can stop pulling up that joke on me. You were never told to do this, you know that. It still annoys the shit out of me when Dun's face decided to say it in a challenging tone. Bakugo. He'll fucking fall for me. You just goddamn wait. Kirishima silently hoped that his plan would backfire. He knew that sounds selfish, but it was better for him because he wouldn't have to discover such a brutal truth. Did he do it for himself? He didn't know. But he was sure it meant a better option.